Now I'm wondering whether I should tell you the Brit Award story. So, my intro has been done. What does the CTO even do? The interesting thing here is that this is obviously a garbage line. Karen summed this up perfectly. It's not linear. You're going to go forward and you're going to go backwards, up, down. But I wanted to sort of put this idea in your head that there is this journey you want to go on. Now, I manage managers, we manage managers, and I found myself giving this coaching several times. And because I gave my coaching several times, I thought, submit it as a talk. And the idealistic path here is fine, but somewhere around the middle, you discover something. And what you discover is that you don't know how to do the next few steps. And Karen summed that up as, it's not your boss's job to now help you do your career growth. And there's some sort of challenging things in this. This is the only place where I used AI in my slide deck, because I had to do some research. And I wanted to show you the problems that occur. This is in the people manager track, but if you're an IC in the room, this applies to you too. Down the bottom, you can see on the left-hand side, essentially supply. And on the right-hand side, open roles, this is like the demand. It's so easy to become an engineering manager, like unbelievably easy. You just sit in a room as an engineer, and then someone leaves, and then they go, you. Suddenly, that's your career done. But it gets harder to do the next steps because your competition is really high. The number of opportunities you can go for are far fewer. And the risk sort of matrix changes. When you're the lowest level, they can sort of go, if we make you an engineering manager and you screw this up, it doesn't really matter. Your blast radius, your impact there is maybe 3 people or 6 people or 7 people. But the senior engineering manager may still have the same number of people, but they typically have a larger sort of revenue responsibility, a more critical area, and so forth. And they are not going to take as many chances on you. And you go up this ladder, and when you get to someone like senior director of engineering or higher, the blast radius is huge. They're not going to take any chances. And that leads to a problem. It leads to the problem that you find yourself in this latter half of your career going, I don't know how I'm supposed to get my career growth. My manager's not telling me. They're doing their own job. And yet, unless you're already doing something, you are not going to get that job, like at all. And so I want to talk about progression frameworks. And they are, for me, the broken compass. They help you on the first part of your career. And they help you reasonably well, because they just tell you what to do. And you try and game it, right? You're like, I want to get a promotion. What do I need to do here? And so you open up the progression framework, and you're like an L4 engineer. I don't need to translate that now. A normal engineer, sort of like engineer going to senior engineer. And you open up the progression framework, and it says, just do this thing. And if you do it, it's almost like a checkbox, even though we tell you it's not. And someone's going to turn around after a while and go, you are ticking all these things. We're on your side. We're going to give you a promotion. But it doesn't work because of this. What got you here, following the progression framework, isn't going to get you there, getting to the second half of your career. It's not going to get you to principal engineer. And if you manage to just about get there, it's not going to get you to like senior principal or anything beyond. It's not going to get you to sort of director or beyond director to continue to look at the progression framework and say, this is what I've got to do. This is a book, by the way. There's a book title. I don't know if you read business books. Hands up if you read business books. Well done. I read the back. I might read the title. And I read this title and I was like, yeah. And I didn't read the rest. But what I did understand was this. I understood level 10. There's no 10 levels. I made this in Python yesterday. And what I'm trying to sort of say, though, is earlier on in your career, you get this enormous growth. Right? You're actually learning how to code. And your improvement day to day, month to month, is dramatic. But when you get mid-career, or actually probably like staff engineer or senior engineer, you could go another 10 years in that career and you probably code no better. It's the same skill. It's not the coding that carried on improving. You thought it was. You're still there going, oh, I need to learn distributed systems, or I need to learn this failure mode, or I need to learn that framework. But actually, the coding's the same. You understood loops, recursion, failure and time in distributed systems, and you were fine. Now you understand LLMs. But this doesn't help you. And this is why it doesn't help you, because beyond the halfway mark in your career, in that idealized sort of straight line which doesn't exist, right? We've got these progress bars on the right-hand side saying, this is where you are in your career. But on the left-hand side, if you've got a progression framework, they tend to use these verbs, or maybe you've seen the analogy, knows how to tie knots, knows how to make rope, or whatever. But this is from the SFIA, the Skills Framework for an Internet Age, which was created by the British Computer Society, probably for British Telecom or someone. Someone in British Telecom is going to be in this room and go, no, they didn't. But I think that's where that came from. And they produced a factory for producing progression frameworks. And these progression frameworks start by sort of going, just do what you're told. And they end by going, be the one that tells everyone what to do. And somewhere in there, there's obviously a failure, because you've got to stop following and start leading. So you've got to stop being told what to do. And they've kind of got this here. Somewhere around level 3, you're still doing, right? You're still being, just go apply that thing. And at level 4 here, enable, tell the others how to do this thing. When you get to level 5, which is probably equivalent of like director or something, ensure, advise. That's their verb from the SFI progression framework. And when you get there, you're just like, but what does that mean? I don't know. So they become really abstract. It's the latter stages in the progression framework is modern art. So yeah, not surprised if you can't follow it. And for me, this looks like this. You start by being told what to do, and you're going to have this inflection point. And the inflection point is when you've got uncomfortable. And it's somewhere mid-career that you get uncomfortable because you're being told fewer things. Instead of being given a spec for something, someone's come along and said, here's one line, please go create an entire thing. And you have to invent the rest yourself. So autonomy is the thing that I think is really coming in. And you kind of have to practice it as early in your career as possible so you're good at it later in your career. Those imagine that this is a step change, no, it doesn't happen. So if you've got a progression framework, it's going to stop working. It's going to stop working halfway through. So my view is that for the lower career people, the early career people, engineers, senior engineers, even the engineering managers, you can use a progression framework. They will help you. They will tell you what to do. They have got simple skills. Go do this thing. Treat it as a gameable checklist. You will win. But they do not help you beyond that halfway point. And if you're following them, you're going to get lost. Because there's no progression framework where the latter stages actually describe the people you have in that role. Like, you can do this experiment. You've all got a progression framework at your places, unless you're a tiny startup. And you can read it and sort of go, it says that a director should do this. And you can have a look, and then you can think of the directors you got and go, do they? No, they do not. So they do not apply when you get to a certain level. And so you have no path. This talk is actually about this bit. You just needed the context. How do you find the right path for the second half of your career? You need a different tool. It's not going to be the one that you thought you were told to use. And I'm an engineer. And so as an engineer, I still approach everything as sort of an engineering mindset. And what I did with my career is I kind of looked at this mess and I went, I don't know what to do. My boss is not telling me. Or at least if he's telling me, it doesn't make sense because his context is different and nothing that he's saying applies to where I am. But I figured that I could reverse engineer this. Right? And reverse engineering, definition up here, you've probably already read it. Right, so you're treating it like a black box. You're going to use deductive reasoning. You're going to say, how does this thing behave? And what is it that they're doing? And can I understand that so that I can go and apply that and perhaps get the same outcome? With little insight into exactly how it does so, because most CTOs can't tell you. And this is how I broke this down. You can do it your own way. At the bottom here, you've kind of got the years it takes at each level on average. These averages are taken from the whole market view. They are not reflective of anything. But most people who are an engineering manager for only 2 to 4 years before they become a senior EM. And I figured that I could map out the career path in terms of years. And in this case, it's the people manager career path is 15 years, if you follow an idealistic line. And that I could divide this. I could just chop it in half and then go, well, what if I want to be somewhere a certain amount of time? Like if I want to be there in 15 years, where do I have to be in 7.5 years? If I want to be there in 7.5 years, where do I have to be in 3 to 4 years? Where do I have to be in 2 years, 1 year, 6 months? So what should I do today to get past the next 3 months? My view here is that time is a scarce resource. If you sit around waiting for the experience to come, nothing happens. So you basically have to work to create the experience, even when you think, I don't necessarily have the conditions that will feed that experience to me. Which led me to a question. If I'm going to try and create the experience of a CTO, and I looked at my one, and I said, OK, Tom, what do I think my boss does? Which leads to the question, the slide. And if I posed this to the room, and I posed it to my directors who were asking for coaching, they were sort of going, I'm really good at people management. How do I get forward? I build a great team. I find good people. How do I get forward? What else is there? And so I didn't bother answering, because as a leader, you don't answer questions. You pose questions. So I asked the question, what does the CTO even do? And everyone gets it. Do we have the right team? And that's your starting point. And that's obvious. Do we have the right team? And that means, you're managing the low performers, you're recognizing the top performers, you're keeping their tenure high, you're working through them. Beyond that, though, what do they do? What does the CTO do? They tend to answer this question, do we have the right technology? And again, this feels obvious because it's in the title, Chief Technology, right? So they do tech. And in this, there's a whole load of things. It's not just about you came in and you might like PHP and you go, I want to use PHP everywhere. And you go, I'm going to build an enterprise app for a Windows environment in PHP. I understand that's possible. I checked with Sasha earlier. But that would be crazy because you're not going to maintain it. It's not the right solution. You're not going to get the velocity you need. You're not going to deliver on time. So obviously, you're not going to do that. And the right question now would probably be AI related, right? I've avoided AI mostly in this talk, but what does it mean to apply AI correctly, the right tech, build the right features, figure out how to actually use it and everything else? So that's the second question. And at this point in time, everyone thinks, great, I can identify what the CTO does, I can learn those two things. I've already come from an engineering background, and I've done some people management. But then you get hit with this third one. Do we have the right product vision? And this is where it starts getting interesting, because it's like, well, we got a head of product. Is it not their job? I don't want to care about that. They can care about that. We've got product managers. But you still need alignment. You still need to actually turn around and say, yes, it's their job, but it's also your job, because you've got to deliver on that product vision. You've got to be able to sell it to your engineers. You've got to be able to influence them to produce the best version of this. So it's not just those first two things. You've got this third thing. So you've got to actually think and own this yourself. You've got to be able to communicate the vision more broadly. You've got to take that vision and translate it into the tech with the right people. Hands up if you would have done this one. Very few people. Only a few who probably exist in the financial markets. So this one here is actually interesting as well. CTOs are responsible for this. In fact, they're legally responsible for this. So you need to learn this skill to reach that part of your career. They're legally responsible for a lot of the security, the compliance, so there's that aspect. But they're also responsible for things like SLAs, which end up in everyone's contracts. So you've got to be able to deliver on the SLAs and the SLIs. You've got to be able to actually think about all of the security, that you don't leak data and anything else. So a CTO owns all of this too. And there's still something more, which is the sales. Do we have the right enablement and sales motion? There's a whole load of stuff in here. I can go to my sales team and they can come to me and say, we've got this deal, we want to sell it at this discount. But I need to know my numbers. I need to know, no, our costs are here, our TCO's there, the price of tooling's here, the headcount's that, and I need to maintain a margin. Most SaaS companies are maintaining an 80% margin, not a secret. But if you're paying a SaaS company, you now know 80% of that is just margin. And you need to know that because you need to build the right tool for the sales team to sell it at the price that they can get away with in the market. So you need to know that. Is there more? Probably. But we don't have time. So I'm going to stick to these 5 areas, and these 5 areas cover what I believe is like virtually everything of what a CTO does. And it's more than most people think. And immediately, most directors will look at this and go, that's more than I'm doing. If you've lost a compass, continuing that bad analogy, there was a tool called a sextant. And a sextant, roughly drawn in the top left-hand corner, really shows you how to navigate by the stars. So it can help you find yourself even when you don't have the sort of the magnetic sort of navigation. So this is the tool. And this is a radar diagram. And I've plotted on here those 5 dimensions, and I've rated them out of 5, arbitrary choice. And an early career manager here, you can kind of see there's a classic interview question on a triangle of people, tech, and product. Where do you gravitate? What do you do most and everything? And really the answer, if anyone ever gets this in an interview, is to say people. I gravitate towards people. You will get the job. And this is what an early manager looks like. And if you think about this, it's like, yeah, people management. Mid-career director looks like this in most companies. At this point, it hasn't really deviated. It hasn't really specialized. They've picked up a lot more of the tech because they have to be in charge of the strategic execution. They have to understand how their engineers, the right people, and some of their tech choices are playing together to deliver on the product vision. Still low risk, still low sales enablement. You know, you're probably working in a more operational, I need to deliver. This is my manager, which looks daunting. So this is CTO of Grafana Labs, Tom Wilkie. He took a while to get to this, so that's okay. I saw him grow some of these bubbles, so it's not too scary. He does not cover everything as well, though. No one does. Right? There's no CTO out there that ticks off every single one of these things. And that's kind of an important takeaway, because you don't have to master everything. You can go get a CISO to manage the risk. You can get a head of product. You can get a head of engineering or a head of people or whatever to cover some of the other things. You can even get, you know, a kind of head of tech or whatever. You don't have to manage everything. But is that all we're trying to say? Well, no. Because my next career move is probably not my boss's job, and most people don't realize that. Your career move is probably not your boss's job, because in fact, they don't move out the way, and it's very hard to fire them. Someone above them has to do that, and I can't achieve that. So my next job is going to be elsewhere, and so will yours. And if you realize that actually you're doing the wrong thing if you're just looking at your boss and trying to replicate their behavior, because that is not the role that you're going to get. You've got to actually identify the skills that you need to learn outside of just the one that you see. So I tried to consider what do CTOs of other companies do. And I ran this by a CTO of a bank last night, or was it this morning? And she agreed, this is roughly CTO of a bank. You are obsessed by compliance and security and risk. That's your entire profile right there. You still got to care about the tech, because it's got to enforce the compliance, security, and risk. And the sales stuff, less so. We don't need to worry about that. So the shape differs massively Tom's role, the CTO of Grafana Labs, he had tons of sales stuff. He's trying to make sure that we listen to customers, build the right product. He's working on the product vision, making sure the price is right. He's aiming that direction. But a CTO of a bank does not have to think about that. They have to think about the compliance, security, the safety, the customer satisfaction in terms of those things, because trust is essential. Early stage startup, though, and we all know this profile from sort of Hacker News type, Y Combinator types, their risk profile is non-existent. They don't really care about that. This is one of the big differences between America tech and European tech. They care about sort of like the people. Do we have the best team? Do we have the right tech? Can we jump ahead of people? And they're willing to make a mistake, so they don't really care so much about the risk, and they don't yet have to sell. Right? They get a boatload of cash. They don't have to sell yet. So that's kind of reflected in this makeup. And it leads to this other realization. And this was an interesting one for me, because yes, it varies depending on the organization, industry, vertical, and so forth, but it also depends on the time of leading that company. Because there was a moment when Grafana Labs was a startup and the profile was different. And the profile changed with the scale, the revenue, the fact that we're now a supply chain risk, as is everyone else who is a sort of a service company, sort of intermediated into there. And so the profile changes over time. And when I took all of this understanding in the coaching with my directors, I put it up as a single sort of entity, a single slide. And it kind of tells them what is going on. Right? They were not, beyond the EM phase, they were roughly the shape of the director. And at this point, most of the directors do look roughly the same. But beyond that point, they look different. And that's good, because it means you don't have to try and fit some idealized version of this. You can actually find out what your strengths are. And that understanding your strengths can actually mean that you can steer yourself towards the right companies and roles when they become available. Your roles will be elsewhere. You probably, at this point in time, will not be the CTO, even if you've been named as a successor or something like that. So recognizing what your skills are and recognizing what directions are open to you gives you the focus on, that means I need to grow that particular thing. You can do this, by the way. These are really simple radar diagrams. You can draw up where you think your current competency is and use it like it's an individual development plan to sort of go, I think I'm here, I think I need to be there, how do I do that? And it probably involves doing several things. Like if you're a director, you've got a reasonable size organization, you might have 20 to 40, 50 people reporting into you, and you can treat that like a self-enclosed business. I said the experience doesn't come from nowhere, you have to kind of create it. And in doing so, you can sort of look at this and go, well, what does it mean to know the numbers? Right? What does it mean to know the sales enablement? Most people managers in tech don't know their numbers. They don't know what their headcount costs. They don't know what their T&E costs. They don't know what their revenue is. They don't know really how their margin works or anything. And you can actually go and find out those numbers and build your own experience towards the next step. It will help you beyond measure. Final thought. I put this up here as advocate for yourself. And when I showed this to someone, they said, that's great. I think what that means is I should ask you for a promotion. And I was kind of like, no. Well, yes, but also no. The actual advocate for yourself is you've got to kind of believe in yourself that you're able to go that far. And then you've got to say, I'm willing to take the time and investment to go and understand what it is that I need to learn, because no one's going to tell me. And with that, I'm going to actually go and act on this and build the conditions that will teach me. I'm still an engineer in that I need to actually have a problem to solve to learn from it. I can't get it from business books. That's my style of learning. So for me, advocating for myself was actually to say, I will run this part of this company as a self-enclosed business. Doesn't mean I break the fact that I'm part of a larger thing, but it does mean that I create the conditions for me to learn. And it actually raised the other directors who are reporting to me at the time to actually become even stronger. And that's my little talk. Thank you.